Ms. Maputa. Let me welcome the members once more, as well as members of management and support staff and the members of the public who have joined us from different platforms for this particular REC meeting number 391, held today, the 10th of February 2025 via Microsoft team. Members, we do have an agenda for the open session of our meeting, and I would like to get an indication that you do adopt the agenda as presented by show of hand, members. Thank you, Ms. Masetti. Thank you, Mr. Mkize. I also support the adoption of the agenda for our open session. On that note, let me start first by introducing the members of the REC before we proceed to our items that have been set for the open session. I would like to introduce Ms. Masetti, who is a member of the REC, chairperson of the Pipe Gas Subcommittee and the Electricity Subcommittee, and a member of other committees of the Energy Regulator. Ms. Masetti, may you kindly greet those that have joined us?
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning to the members of the public that are following the proceedings of today's meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Masetti. I will then introduce the next member, which is Mr. Muzi Vukile Mkize, who is a member of this particular committee, chairperson of the Petroleum Pipeline Subcommittee, and a member of other subcommittees and committees of the Energy Regulator. Babu Mkize, over to you, if you can greet those that have joined us for this meeting.
Good morning to everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, members. We are now going to move to the items that have been set for our meeting, which form part of the advertisement that was made for the meeting. We'll start on with the pipe gas regulation matter, which is only one, and the matter relates to the Republic of Mozambique Pipeline Investment Company Limited's full year regulatory financial report for the period starting 1 July 2023 to the 30th of June 2024. Over to you, Babu Numalo, or you can guide us as to who is going to lead the committee through this particular submission. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to members and colleagues. Chairperson, this is ROMCO's regulatory financial reports. That's for the period July 2023 until June 2024. Chairperson, we received this in December last year, and they were, of course, assessed in line with the criteria set out in the regulatory reporting manuals, looking first at administrative procedures in compliance with Volume 1 of the RRM, and those are detailed under Annexure 1, Chairperson, just for the benefit of members. We looked also at the audit report, and indeed the report that was prepared by the auditors, which is Pricewaterhouse in this instance, has confirmed that the financial reports were actually prepared and submitted in compliance with the RRM. Chair, we also looked at the comparison of just the actuals that were made at the point of tariff application compared to the actuals. And we did note, increases, for instance, in volumes, about just upwards of 4% with regard to volume increase. And there was also a slight increase in the RAB, marginally at 0.90%. And lastly, then we looked at the ratios, that actually showed and confirmed that ROMCO indeed is managing its assets efficiently. And yeah, they are also able to meet on page 15, 14. And just to make a slight correction, under the recommendations, that paragraph 14, the submission is for approval in line with the delegation matrix and not for noting. Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Mr. Numalo. Members, there is the submission before you. Are there any questions, issues of clarity or points of enhancements in relation to what has been presented before this meeting? I do not see any hand from the members. We thank you, Mr. Nomale, for the presentation, as the submission is very clear. Members, with that amendment that we do not have to note this particular submission but approve it, it is therefore recommended that the REC approves the ROMCO's full year regulatory financial reports for the period starting 1 July 2023 to the 30th of June 2024, which has been submitted in compliance with the requirements of the RRM's Volume 1, and that report is attached as Annexure C. By show of hand, members, can I get an indication that you approve these RFRs? Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Masetti. I do support. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. The item is approved as recommended. We then move on to the regulatory part of the petroleum pipelines, and we go to the first item under that part of items. It is a Porter Plant Limited trading as Porter Verspier. There's regulatory reporting manuals, implementation plan submitted in compliance with the requirements of the regulatory reporting manuals. Ms. Mtwa, if you can guide us as to who's going to present, or should we go straight to Mr. Sintimule? Over to you, ma'am.
Yes, Chair. Thank you. Good morning.
Thank you. Dr. Sintimule, you can take the meeting through the item, but please note, take it as having been read. Just give us the highlights on the item. Over to you, Bob.
Thank you, Chairperson, and good morning to members and colleagues. The purpose of this submission of today is to request the Regulator Executive Committee to approve the Porter IP submitted in compliance with the requirements of the RRM. Porter submitted its IP on the 16th January. Apologies for the mistake there, for error. It was 16th January 2025 in compliance with the requirements of the RRM. The IP is considered to have met the criteria as IPEM. After being evaluated by the RRM specialist internally, we have seen that all areas which need to be covered under the implementation plan have been covered by Porter. The only issue we have agreed with Porter is that they will share with us, after approval of this, the risk register. In that regard, that was the only outstanding item. On that regards, members, it is recommended that the Regulatory Executive Committee approve the Porter IP submitted in compliance with the regulatory reporting manual. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Dr. Sintimule. Members, any questions, issues of clarity, or points of enhancements on the presentation that has been made on the Porter plant? If you do have any, please raise your hand. I'll recognize you. I do not see any hand from the members. I also don't have any issues in terms of the submission. Members, I will then take you to the recommendations, which are on page 4 of the submission, paragraph 14, which is for the REC to approve the Porter Verspierders IP submitted in compliance with the regulatory reporting manuals. By show of hand, members, can I get an indication that you do approve this item? Thank you, Ms. Masetti. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. I also support. We move on to the next item, which is item 7, which is FFS Tank Terminals Pty Limited as application for a license to operate petroleum storage facility located in Maidon Wharf, Port of Durban, KwaZulu-Natal Province. Ms. Mta, we'll go straight to Mr. Untid. If you may come in, Mr. Untid.
Good morning, Chair, members, and members of the public. I'll be assisting Mr. Mapoli, which was part of the processing team. The subject here is the application for the license to operate this petroleum storage facility in Maiden Wharf in the port of Durban. I'll take the matter as read, but I think it's important the background and the high-level summary in the table that captures the key issues for consideration. I think it should also be noted that this is a niche market in terms of fuel oils, and there has been some let's say challenges or different interpretations of whether facilities similar to this should be licensed or not. But having assessed the facts, we are confident that this is the recommendation we're putting to the committee. Important to note in the figure 1, this is a different area of the port of Durban, not where the traditional or the other imports of petroleum products take place, but this is due to the fact that the facility also handles non-petroleum products. So it is important to note that the highlighted tanks, there is only 3, 4, and 5 of this entire facility which regulates petroleum. There was some delays in processing the application due to the fact that it's also accompanied by a tariff application, as the rules require. But in terms of the key issues then, we have then done a site visit on the 6th of February, which unfortunately could not happen in November. But we have now verified all the information as it was presented, as it is presented in this application. And then the additional information, the actual written proof of all those documents have also since been submitted to the energy regulator. I think in terms of financial abilities, we know the Act says we must, NERSA must assess that. You'll see in figure 3 on page 17 of 22 that has been done, and there's no concerns, and they do have the abilities based on information submitted. I think in terms of the market and the throughput, although the tank turnovers is low, as indicated in paragraphs 31, 32 of the submission, this market this market is typically lower volumes. Therefore,
colleagues, can you
let's not.
No, look. Just hold on, colleagues. Can we really try and assist the committee to do its business by trying to mute ourselves? If there's someone calling you, please check whether you're muted or not, because it really is becoming disruptive when people are talking and when the members are trying to listen to the presentation. Thank you. You may continue, Mr. Untid.
Thank you, Chair. So the fact that there is low turnover, in fact, creates the opportunity for potential uncommitted capacity for third parties, which is one of the key objectives of the Act. And we know that there is sort of challenges in that regard. So that's very positive aspect as part of the motivation. We have done the share analysis, market share analysis there. Mr. Sukupasi can later come in if the members has got question. And then in terms of the other objectives, as I've indicated, this is and I can't mention the number, but you'll see in paragraph 33, the percentage black shareholding. It's a majority shareholding by black owners, level 1 contributor status. And therefore, in terms of the Act, there is only 3 other storage facilities from 181 currently issued to majority shareholders or black shareholders. Therefore, that is also positive objective, meeting the objectives of the Act. And considering all of this, then the recommendation, maybe just one thing, then the license conditions is attached to the document, which is the standard template. I did note that there's some bookmark error that slipped in the scanning or the final document, but the document is the correct, appropriate document. Therefore, the recommendation to the committee as outlined in the document, let me just take the members to the paragraph, is then that the members consider the application and the recommendations to grant the operation license to FFS, tank terminals, the associated license conditions that has been included in the pack. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Untit. Members, any questions, issues of clarity or points of enhancements in relation to this particular item? You may raise your hand if you have any of those. I see Ms. Masiti's hand is up. You may come in, ma'am.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you, Mr. Untit, for the presentation. Just to start off on the information that we provided on the background, particularly with respect to the application for the tariff, we appreciate the fact that the team has indicated that there is a requirement for the application for the tariff to be made, especially when the license for operation is also submitted to the regulator. However, as we know, these two applications in any event were supposed to will be considered separately, analyzed separately. So I was then going to suggest that under paragraph 4.1, we reduce the information that we have provided there. I think it is sufficient to indicate that this application must also be followed by a tariff application because they are now at the stage of the operation. And then you then indicate that the licensee has since complied with that, and that that application will be looked at separately without dealing with issues of incomplete or completeness of that application, by when it will be declared complete and that stuff. Can we just reduce that? I think it is sufficient for purposes of demonstrating that the licensee has been responsive in terms of ensuring compliance. Then the second thing that, Chairperson, I would like to find out are the outcomes of the market, because I'm not sure if we have established previously that this market will be treated or is seen as different from the other markets or the market segments, because I have not seen previously a broad market definition, which will also have different segments of the market that will then entail the heavy fuel oil, the HFO, and the RFO. So, and also I do not understand, maybe I need to be enlightened as to why there is doubts, and also indicated that this is a niche market and therefore does not need maybe the protection that is provided in the PPA. Can I be enlightened on that? Especially if this is in terms of the application is in terms of the rules, so in terms of the Act, where it states clearly that nobody will construct or operate the petroleum, whatever specific languages that is used, without the requisite a license from the regulator. Can I be enlightened on this as to the why we seem to doubt at this point, especially if already there was a construction license of which before the investment is made, if there were issues of whether this needs to be licensed, why was that not raised at the stage of the construction license so that an investor does not come and spend its capital, then invest and construct? And when they're done with construction, they're now at the stage of operating so that they can start getting the money back and the returns. And then we start indicating as to whether this needs to be licensed or not licensed. Can I be clarified on the so that we can be very clear on the concerns regarding what you refer to as a niche market and the doubt that you had with regards to whether or not it needs to be licensed? Thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you, Ms. Masetti. I don't see any other hand. I don't have any issues on my side. But Mr. Untit, you may respond. But I heard you saying on the market share analysis, maybe Mr. Sukupase will come in and assist you. But I think the first point made by Ms. Masetti as well is that it's a point of enhancements on paragraph 4.1 on page 3. And I hope that has been noted, that we need to reduce it in terms of the information provided there. Do you want to come in, Mr. Untit, or just go straight to Mr. Sukopas?
Chair, I want to just start addressing that, and then Mr. Sukopas, in terms of the market definition, is more competent than myself on that aspect. Maybe it's the way I worded it, Ms. Chair, through you, Ms. Masetti. I think the moment you discuss or talk about fuel oils, there is ISO standards for that in terms of different grades. So although grade 1, 2, 3, 4 may be deemed a petroleum product, some of the worst grades of fuel oil is actually like bitumen, doesn't meet the definition of a petroleum product, and it's used for other purposes, and even carbon black feedstock. I think that was sort of the uncertainty many previously, but in this case, we have assessed the product grades, and that was also part of the site visit when the team was there on Thursday. So that is why I said that. The other thing to remember with if these facilities and this is a subsidiary of FFS Refiners. There was previously 3 licenses issued by the energy regulator to FFS Refiners, which subsequently have been revoked via the High Court process. And that was based on that it was more processing and separation in preparation for that. That was the confusion. In this case, it's clear it doesn't apply, and therefore that's why I said we're positive. In this case, it should be licensed. Then the other thing with regards to construction, this is an existing facility. It dates back many years. I'm not sure if the team has got the actual date, but it's prior to even regulation, the petroleum pipelines regulating started. It was originally built for other products, chemicals and vegetable oils, which is not petroleum products. So that was the other part we need to establish, but that was clearly established at the site that only those tanks are capable of handling petroleum. The others is non-regulated products. So it was an existing facility. There was not a construction. The construction happened even pre-NASA's mandate in terms of the act started. Mr. Sukupase, maybe in terms of the market definition part to assist me.
Thank you, Mr. Untit. Good morning, members. Well, on the market definition part, what we know is that based on case precedent, particularly from the European Commission, is that the market for the leasing of storage capacity for petroleum products has been basically broadly defined in that it encompasses all the petroleum product. It has not been disaggregated at product level, since it is possible for the players involved in that market to basically switch in between the storage facilities should the price of the products to be stored increase. That is, should opportunities arise which are more profitable in other products. And hence, we did not define a niche market for heavy fuel, or rather for the storage of heavy fuel. But Chair, if this will assist, this is a worst case scenario that we looked at from a competition impact perspective. The reality of the matter is that FFS tank terminals is not really a competitor in this market, simply because the storage facility, insofar as we understand it, is intended for own use by means of being contracted to their own subsidiary. So in other words, the enforcement of third-party access would mostly likely be relevant in this regard, since the player is not like a player like Vopec, whose premise is primarily on providing storage, but rather it's just intended for own use. So in other words, it's not a competitor from the grounds upon which it was established, but from a third-party access, to the extent that it would be granting third-party access, it would be competing in that respect, in that it won't be an aggressive competitor. So just to bring comfort to the members that the impact on competition is simply a worst-case scenario, but the true sense of the matter is that FFS tank terminals is not a competitor in this market for the reasons I've stated. Thank you.
Chairperson, you're on mute.
You must be muted, Chairperson. Okay, I see that Madam Maset wants to have a follow-up. Madam Maset, if you may just chip in.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Mr. Mkhize, I just wanted to understand how the team dealt with the regulatory asset base aspect, given the fact that these tanks were built long time ago to start off with, and then secondly, they were utilized for different products that are outside the legislation that we administer. And now that they are brought into our regulatory framework, what is then the starting regulatory asset base that we are looking at here in terms of the value of this? And also, I'm asking this question because the market may change soon, especially if there will be instances of sort of partnership that take place in partnership that takes place in the market between FFS and other parties that may be, utilizing some of its infrastructure, such as maybe connecting pipelines or the storage facilities. So that will become important as an essential facility. So it will be important, unless they will do it always as partnerships, so that they don't offer the storage, the supply of storage for third parties, but will prefer to do it as partnerships. But the point on the RAB, the starting RAB value, is important. If I may be clarified on that, Chair.
Thanks, Madam Maseti. May you please clarify, Mr. Untit and the team?
Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Apologies, I just lost connection a bit there. There was a hand from Ms. Maseti. I thought it was a follow-up hand, Mr. Mkhize.
Chair, Mr. Mkhize took
Madam Maseti
over.
has already explained what the inquiry is all about, and now it's for Mr. Untit and the team to then respond. I've seen that the hand of the EM is up. Maybe let me start with you, EM, and then go to Mr. Untit.
Thank you. You may proceed, Ms. Mkhize.
I'm not sure if Ms. Mtwa has got a problem. In the interest of time, the tariff application is the next item. I don't recall seeing anything specifically in terms of the starting base. Ms. Massetti, I was hoping the tariff colleagues could assist, and it may be stated or discussed in the tariff application, but I will see what I can quickly find out for us. But Ms. Mtwa alerted me that she's got a problem in terms of her interconnection.
Thank you for that, Mr. Untit. Ms. Massetti, any follow-up questions from the responses given by the team?
Chairperson, which is the very point that the team has made in paragraph 4, the importance of the fact that at the stage of doing operation, it's important that you know about the tariff. So those two things are linked, because now you're going to do the operation, and therefore there must be a tariff that ensures that the recoveries will be at efficient levels. So I am surprised that when we then process the operation, especially if we did not look at the construction, now when we are now only, this is the only tool that the regulator is coming in to allow this this license, this entity to come in. Yet we have not looked at the regulatory, the starting regulatory asset base, just to understand what's going to happen, just an explanation to understand what's going to happen with regards to the value of the assets that we're now admitting within the space that NERSA is regulating, so that then when we get to the tariff, we don't have to be asking those things, because they would have been dealt with during the operation, because we are giving them the right to operate these things within the parameters of the PPA. Now we can't ask later on questioning that, yes, we will just check in terms of the monitoring and in terms of what is allowed in terms of our methodology for the tariffs. But for the legal requirements, at least we should be able to explain. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Ms. Massetti. I see there is a hand. Ms. Mahopela, please note that we're not yet at discussing the tariff, but the point of the linkage between the license application and the tariff. If you're coming on that, please, you may come in. But I see there is an item on the tariff that follows. But let's just give Ms. Massetti the clarity that she's seeking. Mr. Untid, Ms. Mahopela, I didn't mean to say, take your hand down. I don't know what you wanted to say. You may come in, ma'am.
Thank you. Maybe, yes. Good morning, colleagues and members. Just to indicate that in terms of the regulatory asset base, they did mention about the old assets that were there, but most of them, they were fully depreciated, so they didn't include them in the regulatory asset base. They only included the ones that they have refurbished and that are operational now. I just wanted to indicate that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for that. Mr. Untit, anything else? Ms. Massetti?
I'm not sure if Ms. Massetti is covered, but like I said, we couldn't find anything specifically on the starting asset base in the application. And then the tariff application, I didn't want to now raise that because it's still a matter coming. I'm not sure if Ms. Massetti is covered.
Ms. Massetti, are you covered?
I'm covered, Chairperson, as long as all the time, I think in terms of, I don't know if it's also in terms of the regulation or the rules for the PPA. Sometimes they will talk about the tariff policy that is going to be used. Those are things that are asked from the licensing side of things. That's why there's always this issue of when you're at the operation stage, you must also know about the tariffs. So also the issues like the point that Ms. Mahopela mentioned, it is something that ought to have been mentioned so that at the operation we know exactly what assets are going to be operated. And when they are operated, the way that they're going to be admitted into the regulatory asset base, so that we know that when we allow these investments are going to be efficient. There are some that are fully depreciated, and maybe we'll only expect the operation expenses. And there are some that are refurbished, and perhaps the money that the refurbished, the capital will be or they will be capitalized, and therefore that's what we expect in the regulatory asset base, so that at least we know the size of it and we know the efficiencies of it, and at least that's why we'll apply that when we now get to the tariff stage. So I'm hoping that going forward, the team will be able to give such indications. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much for that contribution, Ms. Maseti. Mr. Untit and team, I hope you are noting the enhancements that has been made by Ms. Maseti to really, in the license application, give that indication such that when we actually deal with the actual tariff, there has been some indication of those points that needs to be in the license application as well as the tariff. On that note, members, can I then, I don't see any other hand. May I request that we go to the recommendations which have been read into the record by Mr. Untit, but I will try and do them again. They are on page 7, paragraph 14, and the recommendation are that the REC considers and approves the application by FFS Tanks Terminal Pty Ltd for a license to operate a petroleum storage facility within the combined design capacity of 23,382 cubic meters in Maiden Wharf, Durban, in the province of KwaZulu-Natal. And the second recommendation is that the decision and reasons for decision document that are attached in Annexure 1 be approved as well, and that the license conditions under the provided license number that is attached as Annexure 2 to also be approved. And having noted the comments that members have made to enhance similar submissions in the future. By show of hand, members, can I get an indication that you support the recommendations that are indicated in paragraph 14 on page 7? And thank you, Ms. Maseti. Thank you, Mr. Mkhize. Also support. We'll then move on to the next item, which is now the tariff that's linked to the item that we have just considered, which is decision and reasons for decision on a tariff application by FFS Tank Terminals Pty Ltd for its petroleum storage facility in Maiden Wharf for the period 1 January 2025 to the 31st of December 2027. Over to you, Ms. Boko.
Good morning, Chair. Thank you. Ms. Mahupelo will assist us in introducing the submission. Thanks.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. The purpose of this submission is to request the PPS to approve the multi-year tariff applied for by FFS Tank Terminals for the operation of the petroleum storage facility in Maiden Wharf, and to also approve the decision and reasons for decision document attached as Annexure A. The detailed assessment of the tariff application starts from paragraph 5.6 of the REC submission, and the difference in the tariff applied for by FFS and that determined by NERSA is mainly due to the different REP values and the tax expense. It is therefore recommended that PPS approve the tariffs of 32.72 cents per litre tariff for the 2025-26 financial year, 32.19 cents per litre tariff for the 26-27 financial year, and 29.87 cents per litre for the 2027-28 financial year for the FFF storage facility, and that the decision and the reasons for decision be approved for publication. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Mahopela. Members, any questions, issues of clarity that you may have on the submission? Please do raise your hand if you do have any of those. Thank you. You may come in, Ms. Maseti.
Thank you, Chairperson. We lost you for some few seconds. Thank you. Chairperson, I was hoping that the team now come in, talk about the very raised earlier on, because the tariffs that calculated showing the base and even the assets, and I'm hoping that they will during the audits required in terms of the RRM be able to then assist in terms of the asset register that we will be working on, so that we now know the opening balance of the REP value as we are starting on that REP value. So hence I was talking about the starting regulatory asset base. So they should have taken us through that at this point and tell us what did they work on here, so that from the beginning, as we have now licensed it, we know what is the opening balance on the RAP value. And then here are the tariffs. And then going forward, we are able to also next year, when we sort of check and monitor, at least they will be able to see what is the closing balance after we've allowed the depreciation and all of that. And then it goes like that in all of the years, especially because this is a multi-year, and then we can monitor closely. But I'm not sure why they have not touched on that, because the question that I've asked is also relevant and is more relevant for this part. So that's the first thing. The second one, Chairperson, if I may, just for consistency across the divisions, and something that was stated at the energy regulator, that we do not need to approve that the decision and the reasons for decision be published on the NERSA website, because that is part of what we are supposed to do when the decisions are taken. So I will propose, therefore, that that part of the recommendation be deleted. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Massetti. Ms. Makopela or Ms. Boko, you may come in.
Thank you. Maybe just to indicate that when they submit an application, they use the trended original cost, whereby they have the purchase date and the capital year and the original asset value, and then they trend it from there until the time when they submit an application. So we do have that information with us, whereby they indicate the original cost of the asset and trend it towards, for example, 2024-25. And also they also indicated on the spreadsheet, they indicated the assets that have been removed from which are fully depreciated. Just that maybe we cannot indicate the value because it's confidential. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Massetti, are you covered on the point, on the response rather, that has been provided? And I just also wanted to highlight the fact that the recommendations are not saying that we should publish the RFD. The recommendations are that we consider and approve them as a committee, and in terms of what has been attached as Annexure A. I just wanted to highlight that. Any other issue? Are you covered, ma'am? Oh, you may come in with a follow-up, Ms. Massetti.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, the team knows very well that because this is the first time that we're going to approve this tariff or consider the tariff, they are supposed to tell us how they have looked into the regulatory asset base, because the tariff is based on that. And they should state clearly what information is before the regulator, which will give us comfort on how they worked on these tariffs. So that information is sitting with them, and they have not even touched on it. And I have even asked about it at the time of the when we considered the application for the license to operate. I'm just not sure why they are doing this, Chairperson. And now they are going to be wasting the time of the committee when they know very well that that is the starting point where they were supposed to take us through the regulatory asset base, tell us what are the assets. Hence, I even mentioned the asset register here. And they know that those are the things that they're supposed to be talking about. Then get onto the issue of the tariffs. Yes, I was not expecting them to mention the RAB value, but just to show how they have applied their independent verification of the RAB value, how they looked at what assets are going to contribute to the relevant storage services that are within the PPA. So I don't know why are they doing that, Chairperson? And when I've already guided in a way from the previous application that we've considered. Thanks, Chairperson, for correcting that part, but on record, that's what Ms. Mahopela has indicated. Hence, then I came back to say that we need not approve that. He had put that specific sentence during her introduction of the application, of the submission, that she is also requesting. And hence, I'm actually saying that request should not be part of the decision that is sought today. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thanks for that clarity. I think Ms. Mahopela noted the last point on how we deal with RFDs. They're just for approval and not for publication. But Team PPR, I see Ms. Boko's hand is up. If you can really address the issue raised by Ms. Maseti on the regulatory asset base. Over to you, Ms. Boko.
Okay. Thank you very much, Chairperson. Just maybe to clarify the basis of the starting regulatory asset base. We're dealing here with a facility that's fairly old, and some of the tanks and assets are fully depreciated. So the starting starting regulatory asset base is based on, one, the refurbished tanks, which are to be licensed or which have now been licensed by NESA. It's tank 1, tank 3, tank 4, tank 5. And then the licensee had refurbished those tanks. So at this point, we took the revalued values of the 3 tanks that are operational or that are to be used. And then we have not yet done the audits. I think Ms. Maseti also spoke to this point, that when we then audit the actual costs, we'll then look at the actual costs and verify all of that. But then in our analysis, we looked at that asset base, which is based on the revalued asset values, right, for the 3 tanks. And then in line with our methodology, we then trended those assets in terms of the TOC. I hope that is now clear, Chair. The basis is the revalued values of the 3 tanks that are to be used based on the valuation report that we have. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Ms. Boko. Just to follow up from my side, has this been covered in this submission that we are considering, or will that be an enhancement on what is before the committee if it's not covered?
Thank you, Chair. It will be an enhancement because the RFD starts from the application of the TOC. So we need to also talk to the basis of the starting regulatory asset base and the work of audit that we are yet to do. Thanks.
Okay, thank you for that. Ms. Maseti, are you covered? I think
I'm covered, Chairperson, because as I indicated, it was important for them to deal with that, and they have not dealt with it, as they have just confirmed. Now, it's important also, Chairperson, as part of, because it's the first time we deal with this, that the revalued amount of the RAP, remember, we have not had an opportunity to test it independently. So it is something that from our side we need, because they have accepted it as is for now. But I think it is important that we do our independent verification and see if that is really the amount that we would like to admit, and we are certain that it is a sort of a reasonable value to be apportioned to the 3 tanks that we are talking about. And then the second thing, Chairperson, that those other tanks that were fully depreciated, we know that those tanks we are only going to compensate for the operational expenses if those things can be taken into account. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. I saw Ms. Boko indicating, rather with his thumbs up. I think she has noted what has been said. I think with that emphasis of having to verify the revalued drop, there will be a need for the team to then respond or rather give an indication to members as to how they have done this when it is done. On that note, with those proposed enhancements on the document, I would like to take members to the recommendations, and the recommendations, I think they are on they are on page 11, paragraph 14. And the recommendations are that the REC approves the tariffs of 32.72 cents per litre, 32.19 cents per litre, and 29.87 cents per litre applied for by FFS for its petroleum storage facility for the period 1 January 2024 to the 31st of December 2024, and that the REC approves the decisions and reasons for decision document that has been attached as Annexure A. On that note, members, can I get an indication that you support? And I think the team has also noted the enhancements that have been requested by members. Thank you, Ms. Massetti. I also support the recommendations. Thank you, Mr. Mkize. We'll then move on to the next item, and the next item is an application of Auto Commodities Pty Ltd, or rather a submission on Auto Commodities Pty Ltd regulatory reporting manual implementation plan submitted in compliance with the requirements of the RRMs, and it is for noting. And that is Ntumile, if you can just give highlights on this particular item, and considering that it has been read by members. Over to you.
Good morning, members and colleagues. I'll be presenting Auto Commodities in this submission. The purpose of this submission is to request the Regulatory Executive Committee to approve Auto Commodities IP submitted in compliance with the requirements of the RRMs. Auto Commodities submitted its IP, I will apologize in terms of the date, on the 15th January 2025, not 2024, in compliance with the requirements of the RRM. The IP submitted by Auto Commodities was considered to have met all the criteria set on the implementation plan matrix as provided by the Petroleum Pipeline Division. I'll take the members on the recommendation. It is recommended that the Regulatory Executive Committee approve Auto Commodities IP submitted in compliance with the regulatory reporting manuals. Thank you, members.
Thank you, Ntatesintumile. Members, any comments, issues, or points of enhancements that you may have on this particular item before we go to recommendations? By show of hand. I do not see any hand. On that note, members, I would like to take you to page 4, paragraph 14, which is the recommendations to the REC to approve Auto Commodities IP submitted in compliance with the regulatory reporting manuals. By show of hand, members, can I get an indication that you support the recommendations as indicated on para 14? Thank you, Mr. Mkize. Thank you, Ms. Massetti. I also support. Members, thank you. That was the last item on our open session as advertised. And I would like to thank you for your contributions, members of management and support staff for their contribution as well. And thank those that have joined us for this, members of the public that have joined us for this meeting. We have come to the end of our open session of the meeting, and I would like to declare the meeting closed, and we will proceed with items that are there for the closed session. We'll then Apologies for that, everyone. We'll then move on to the closed session of our meeting. Thanks everyone for, as I said, for their contribution, attendance. The meeting in relation to the open session